4. This is our 5 o'clock work session. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty, appreciate everybody being with us tonight. I believe Mr. Rich Green is with us. He's going to be doing the blessing for us tonight. How are you doing, sir?
Doing just fine, thank you. My name is Richard Green. I'm a member of the Catholic faith community of Good Shepherd, and I'm representing the Frankfurt Interfaith Council. Let's each of us take a moment right now to acknowledge the very real presence here among us of our loving and compassionate God. We thank you, beloved Creator, for being with us. We proclaim you as the soul of our souls and as the source of all goodness. We thank you for the dedication and perseverance of these, our Franklin County elected officials. Inspire each of these officials as they go about this evening's important work of tending to the needs of your people here in Franklin County. We pray that you enlighten, guide, strengthen, and console each of them as they go about this evening's business. We ask that you keep them and ourselves doing all that you want us to do. And all God's people say, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Mr. Green. Appreciate you being with us. Alrighty, next we're going to open the work session up to public comments. If anybody would like to speak tonight, please come forward. Alrighty, please just let you know, so everybody, fair game, three minutes. County Attorney will keep time, and please state your name and welcome.
Thank you for having public comments. I appreciate it. My name is Chris Schimler. I live at 660 Mount Vernon Road, Frankfort, Kentucky. I'm here to speak on your agenda item about the resolution to create a interagency industrial development authority with the city of Lawrenceburg and Anderson County. I feel like it's premature. I'm a member of the advisory committee for the comprehensive plan revision. I served on that for almost 3 years. The comp plan and its attendant future land use map is not finalized. The current version does not have industrial land designated for future land use on the southern end of the county. And I strongly believe that if you guys pursue this resolution before the plan is finalized, then it negates the 3 years of public involvement that was done with public monies that asked the public to show up and participate with goodwill to have their voices heard. We were told at the beginning of the process that the plan is designed to embody the public's vision for how we want to grow in our community. And how is the public going to feel if at the last minute, before it's finalized, a resolution swoops in creating a development authority? How is the public going to feel? Are they going to be willing to show up the next time we ask for public comment? Are they going to feel like this is the way, are young people going to feel like, oh, this is a kind of community I want to live in because this is how we make this is how we make decisions in this community? I think that the public's going to feel like the rug is pulled out from under them. And I urge you to wait until the public's vision is embodied in that plan and the plan is finalized before you pursue any further development on this, whether or not it's for a grant furtherance or not. Because the appearance of it is that you guys are doing what you want to do regardless of what the public says and regardless of what the plan says. So I urge you to wait until that plan is finalized before you take any further steps. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other public comments tonight? Hello.
My name's Rhonda Hodges. I live at 2857 Dixie Road, which is known as Little Dixie. And I'm sure you guys have all heard we are trying desperately to get water down that and several other roads. Eric and I have been working together since October of last year. I'm just basically here. I know we've hit a couple of road bumps, just lost your grant writer. So I'm kind of here asking for maybe some help to get the funds available for this. I know some of the grant money that they thought was available was already, had already been divvied out, so to speak. So I know he's not alone, so I'm just we're here asking for some help on this. We just built a brand new house out there. We deal with pump station issues constantly. That is a meeting with North Shelby Water in 2 weeks. And, but, we would it's a basic need. It's a basic necessity for folks. They rush to get electric on because electric's a basic need, but nobody seems to really work that hard to get the water to folks who don't have it. They want to get it restored in places that lose it, due to floods and things like that. But it's like those that are out there on these little country roads and stuff, they just kind of don't catch those. So, thank you very much. Just would appreciate some help on that one.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Judge, could I
Go ahead.
say something? I appreciate you, Rhonda, for coming. Just so the court is informed, I believe the projects that we've come into focus that could service individual residential households is 21 different households at this point in far part of the county as well as over the county line, but they would be served from lines and developments coming from the Franklin County side of the projects. So it's a growing concern, and we're seeing a lot of preferred development in our rural part of the county, just so everyone's cognizant that it's not just the urban core, if you will. A lot of folks are choosing to buy throughout our county, and the basic necessities of utilities are incredibly important. So I hope that we can make it a priority when our new grant writer starts, for this court to see that every residence in the county is served. And if anyone else out there that may be watching does not have a utility that wants it, maybe you've bought a property recently that didn't previously get served when water came throughout the county, please contact us. I know that Squire Herod has one in his district as well. So just wanted to announce that because I keep finding folks that don't have a utility yet that I'm unaware of.
Yep. Thank you, Squire.
Thanks.
Good evening. My name is John Carlton. As you all know, I live out in Schweitzer Road. And I'm just going to springboard off of what Ms. Schimler said. I'm here to discuss the Joint Industrial Park resolution. And I think the court is moving in a direction that is in contravention to public will, as determined by the results of over 40 advisory committee meetings, several satellite meetings in the county in each of your precincts, several public meetings at Paul Sawyer Public Library, several public hearings in front of this court, the city and the planning commission, as well as several public interest surveys, the planning staff and the consultants who all collaborated to bring you the current proposed comprehensive plan and future land use map, neither of which contemplate this joint venture or the additional acreage at the county line. The current plan also stresses the need to be good stewards of public funds by building new development near existing infrastructure, not building 6-mile multi-million-dollar pipes out to the edge of the county. It also wants to preserve streams like Little Benson Creek and the Kentucky River and preserve prime farmland. This industrial park does none of those things. Speaking of prime farmland, a major component of adopting or amending a comprehensive plan is that each planning unit must conduct research, analysis, and projections which support all elements of the comprehensive plan to include analysis of present and future population trends, present and future economic forecasts, research and analysis of the community needs for existing land use and statewide lands, and analysis of community land use needs on those lands. And I don't know that this court, the City Commission, or the Planning Commission performed any or all of that kind of work. No, they didn't. The Planning Commission, having not performed that work, actually delegated those duties to the Advisory Committee. And so I believe that the Planning Commission is not equipped to make changes to the comprehensive plan. An example, at one public hearing, one commissioner wanted to remove the protection of prime farmland because he thought those determinations were arbitrarily made. He asked, who decides what is prime farmland and what is not? The USDA determines what prime farmland is according to well-defined definition and soil scientists. And the ignorance of that basic fact shows exactly why the Planning Commission is not equipped to amend the comprehensive plan that we spent over 2 years preparing. I ask that you remove the item from the agenda regarding this joint partnership until such time as the comprehensive plan is adopted appropriately and the necessary research to amend the plan has been performed, along with gaining public support from the community. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comments? All righty, seeing none, I'm going to invite Mr. Duke Wilburn to come up and give us a road department update. How you doing tonight, Duke?
I'm doing well. Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Just like to update the court on what the road crews have been doing the last 2 or 3 weeks. Of course, we had our tire cleanup on the 17th, 18th, and 19th, and that, I don't know how many loads of tires they got, but it was a bunch. I know it was, the guys worked hard for 3 days there, unloading trailers, so.
We'd rather be on those trailers than down in the gullies.
Right, yeah. Yes, that's for sure. We had 4 of our new guys got their CDLs week before last, so that's a good thing. All the new hires as of this date, everyone's got their CDLs now, so that's a big plus. We're doing our leaf pickup. It's getting pretty busy. You know, it's 4 days a week now, so it'll be running through the 19th of December. And then we did a little project, well, the guys did, that kind of proud of, for the senior center. I think Andrew's got a picture there. They've got a greenhouse that they weren't able to put up, so the guys went out and poured them a concrete pad so they can put their little greenhouse up. So it's a good thing to do.
I talked to Marshall today at that event, and she was very thankful, and she said the guys did a wonderful job, so
Yeah.
thank you to you guys for doing that for her.
Very well. We got our mow trim. I think it's out on South Benson now, so it's moving around the county pretty quickly. So I don't have much on the new facility as far as an update on it. We're there's some work going on, but it's, you know, it's pulling wire, and the electricians are working every day. The panel we've been waiting on shipped out Monday, so keeping our fingers crossed it gets here in the next couple of days, and things should start picking up down there again. So that's about all I got, unless somebody's got a question.
What questions we have for Duke or the road department?
I've had several people call in and compliment the mow trimming that's been going on. They're really doing a great job, especially in the 4th District. I know across the county, but we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Squire?
Duke, just want to pass along thanks to all the guys, if you would, the cleanup day, the amount of tires that we pulled into this county and cleaned up. I personally sent out letters to folks that I know that had need for that, and we got a tremendous response, it seems, and at Lakeview too, so thank all them for us. It was exciting to see the turnout.
I appreciate you looking over that road department. It's going well down there. I was down there the other morning and got with Kevin, and he's still, I think, epoxy scheduled for like November 11th.
11th, yeah.
And he's still hoping by the end of November that our main building will be complete and hopefully ready for temporary CO, and then they're going to head up to that other, the existing shop. So he's really hopeful by the end of the year to hopefully be 100%. So that's exciting. It'd be nice to have that project complete. So appreciate all your help on that. I know it's been a team effort on that one.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Go ahead, Squire.
I noticed I was out, I just kind of went out the other day and looked around. The storage building has several vehicles in it. Have all of them been moved yet from?
They have not. We've been installing snow equipment, so as we run them through the shop, to get everything finalized on them. We're gonna start parking them inside. So, we don't have access to the whole building. We're just parking things in that we use on a daily basis right now. So, we still gotta get a final electric inspection on that building, and we can't get it till we get the panel. So, that's the holdup on completely being able to move in that building.
And speaking about snow, you're fully stocked on salt, I believe?
We are, yes,
Okay,
sir.
so you're in
Got
good
all our
shape.
salt in.
Guys excited for winter coming?
I don't know about that.
All right, any other questions for Duke while he's with us? All righty, Duke, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty, we're going to jump on to the judge's report. Things have been busy around here, which is a good thing. We had some grant writer interviews. We can talk about those in a little bit. Did a proclamation at the extension office for some homemakers. Chamber board meeting, that's always good to kind of learn what else is going on in the community with other people. Mayor and I did a joint proclamation at the Independence Bank for the Shop Local Saturday that's coming up in December, I believe. We had a meeting with our engineers about the Elkhorn Sewer Project. Talked to Eddie Jones a little bit about our sports tourism and kind of where that is, because I'm wanting him to kind of come and give an update. So he's trying to get a couple things finalized before he does that. I will commend the chamber for a wonderful farm to table event. It was that's a picture. So that was at the Lakeview Park. Couldn't say enough good things about the park staff, and they helped a lot make that building what it is. So we had a lot of compliments. Tish was very complimentary of all the people that helped on that, but it was really, really good. Terry's Catering catered it. I believe the proceeds went to the Senior Center, Activity Center. Jay Madeline was there. Jerry and Nat did the music. It was a very nice first ever farm to table event. I think it was 130 tickets. They sold out. So everybody seemed like they had a really good time, and it's always good to kind of catch up with everybody. And it was a great event. So strongly encourage, as they grow it, that more and more people get to go. It's a great community event, and kind of featured some of our local farms too. That's where all the food came from. So that was neat to see. Moving on, went with Penny Peevler, who's our new interim, about a company relocating here, doing expansion here. We're not there. That one there, yet. Andrew, hold tight up for me. So we went down and met with the company on Monday about doing a big expansion project here in Franklin County. So that went very well. So that was exciting to kind of be part of that. Next, conservation dinner. I believe those were the pictures that were up there a minute ago. It was a great turnout. I appreciate all the squires that were there. There was a lot of support for our farming industry here, and they gave some awards away, and it was a very nice event. And Squire Sebastian, I guess, took those pictures. That was a nice post there, Squire. So it's always kind of good when they get together, and they talk about all the different programs they have and all the equipment that's available to rent throughout the year and things like that. So it's a really good awareness that they put on at that dinner. So thank you, everyone. Next, we had kind of a fun time. Was it yesterday? Yesterday, the trick or treat. A little about 4-year-old preschool came through, and here's a little video Andrew shot, I believe. Andrew, isn't there music to this?
Yes, online. I didn't bring it in.
Oh, okay. All righty. So it was neat. It was a lot of kids. It was more than I remember. But I will say today, the pastor, I guess, where that preschool is held, said that the kids all talked about it afterwards, and this was their favorite stop. Because they went from here up Main Street and then back down and stuff. So it's always cool to hang out with the old kiddos. So I guess I'm going to let this finish out. It's not the same without the music. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we are. And he was serious about it. He was practicing. He was walking around. He takes it serious. That's what I asked. I said, where did all these blow-up things come from? Like, we didn't buy them. They're like, Greg loves Halloween. There he is. He loves Halloween. Yeah. It was a good time. Alrighty. Yesterday I had an extension board meeting, talked about a lot of things. They actually approved buying a 12-passenger van. I didn't realize the extension office didn't have any vehicles, so it's a first purchase. So that's kind of exciting because all their agents use their own vehicles. So as they're moving kids to camp and things like that, they'll actually have a vehicle now. So that's really kind of cool to see. Had another meeting today with the mayor and Penny about another company expanding here, infill, which is great. So both of those. So yeah, we got a lot of things on the horizon. There's a lot of work going on. And then today was just an amazing day, and I think almost everybody was there. We had a really good picture. So there's Gippy Graham. Sherry Squire Sebastian did a wonderful job today. She was able to kind of run the program and talk about how much Gippy has given back. I mean, he's a true public servant, and believe it or not, he is 95 right there, getting ready to turn 96, and that guy is as sharp as if you talked to him 40 years ago. I mean, he just stood there. He knows who everybody is. He remembers you. It was really, really good, and there's Kelly Anderson, her, and I believe Tish kind of put things together, and the board. I mean, there's a countless amount of people that put that on. Sherry could probably talk more about it because I know she's on the board. But the amount of restaurants that donated to it, I mean, there was plenty of food, and I guarantee there was a couple hundred people there. And it was just a really good time to kind of have a community event and talk about all the good things that a very important person has done, not only for the city, the county, the state, our education, I mean, everything. So, Squire, would you like to say a couple words? Because you did a great job today, so I just want to make sure you get acknowledged for that.
Well, a lot of the thanks goes out to the volunteers and the staff at Thornhill,
Yep.
as well as the Wanda Joyce Robinson Foundation, because not only did they make all the phone calls to get all the local restaurants to donate food today, but they went out and picked food up, brought it in, had everything set up and laid out. So, you know, all thanks goes to them for putting all the nuts and bolts together. And then everybody came, and there was a huge amount of donated food by individuals who came. And as the judge said, there were hundreds of people there. And so the good thing is that's going to help the Helping Hands Food Pantry. And then, you know, to be able to recognize someone who, again, we stand on the shoulders of these public servants who came before us. And it is such a rewarding thing to share their stories, maybe with folks who aren't as familiar, but the contributions that they have made to the public arena, we wouldn't be as far along as we are. Even though folks may think we're not as far along as we should be, we wouldn't even be a tenth of the way where we are without people, you know, who have come before us and laid the foundation and spent a lot of their career working and still do it today, are still working today for the betterment of our community education. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Squire Tanner.
I want to say I did absolutely nothing except go out there and eat. And I have never seen so much food that was donated by the local merchants and the restaurants and than was there. It's unbelievable how people got behind it. Next year maybe I'll get there earlier so I can eat more. That's all I'll say.
Thank you, Squire. So, great event. Two things I want to talk about coming up, and I believe Andrew has them. The November 7th, I know the whole court has been invited to. Our PVA is putting on at the sheriff's office his new, I don't know what you call it, you know, it's Eagle Eyes Imagery Solutions. You know, he's talked about this a little bit before. It's like flyovers and things like that a PVA is doing, but it's also used with first responders and things like that. So he's really encouraging the court to show up if you're available to. I think they're providing lunch and everything, so he wants to kind of show what they are capable of, so that's great. And then on November 8th, and this is a tough one, Roberto, most everybody knows Roberto here, great guy. They're doing a fundraiser. They found a tumor. He's got a rough road. So, yeah. So, that is on November 8th from 7 a.m. to 11. And I believe at 2855 is Dynamic Restoration, I know that they're one of the big sponsors, so if anybody wants to donate, it'd be a good cause. Sorry. Alrighty. That's what I have. So, let's keep moving. Next, I invite Peaks Mill Water District to come up. I believe Church Quarles is with us and Greg Heitzman. So if y'all could come forward. In our last meeting, I believe there were some questions. Hello, Greg. There were some questions as far as where is the water district, update, things like that. So I appreciate you and Mr. Quarles coming in to talk tonight to the court and maybe answer any questions they have.
Sure, Judge. Thank you. Thank you, magistrates, for allowing us to come in and update you on the Peaks Mill Water District. It's a political subdivision of Fiscal Court because the Fiscal Court, as you're aware, appoints the commissioners. Church Quarles is our chairman. Church is with me. My role, at Greg Heitzman, I serve as an advisor, consultant to the Water District. So, provided, I believe, Jack, is this in their packet, the summary? Okay. So, I don't think we need to go through all those bullets. There's a little history there, how long we've been in existence. We've been around about 50 plus years. And at the bottom of the first page are the challenges. I'll kind of summarize those 4 basic challenges from my view. One is we have aging infrastructure, now 50 years old. Some of the pipes were non-standard that were put in the 70s and they leak. So that leads to one of our major problems is we have high water leakage, about 25%. We've made some improvements, but we're still not to where the Public Service Commission expects us at below 15. Second is back about 4 years ago, we were entered into an agreed order with the state of Kentucky because we were not able to maintain chlorine residuals out in the far reaches of our system. So we're no longer under that agreed order, so we're now meeting all the Kentucky drinking water regulations, but what that requires is an extensive amount of flushing of water, keep the water moving. The challenge that rural water systems have is there's a much lower density, chlorine decays over time and over distance, therefore the only way you keep it above the regulatory level is flush the system. So if you're a resident out in our Peaks Mill system, you'll see we have purchased through grants automatic flushers. They're on timers and they go off, and we generally will run those from March all the way up until November. So within the next month we'll shut those down. Obviously that means that we are purchasing water that we don't get any revenue from. So that's a major challenge. So water loss is a major challenge. Every gallon that's leakage we're paying for, no revenue, and all the water that we flush, no revenue. The third challenge is much like everybody's experienced since COVID. Essentially the last 4 years or so we've had significant increases in costs, whether that's labor costs, material costs. Everybody in this room has experienced that. So essentially our costs of just operating the system have gone up. What that led to is our board instructed me to assist with looking at options for the district. That's included on the second page of what we're looking at the bottom. Those options basically boil down to a larger system acquiring us. For example, Kentucky American has showed interest. A member of Kentucky American staff attends most of our board meetings, and they show interest in the acquisition of the Peaks Mill Water District. There's a legal process for that. The second is there any way that the existing water systems in Franklin County can work together? Now we had a workshop yesterday educating us by Kentucky Rural Water on how that works. That could be sharing services, sharing trucks, for example, sharing construction equipment, even sharing people. The other, it could be an actual consolidation. So there's a process in Kentucky that the legislature has created that you could actually combine or consolidate water systems. Frankfort is another option. To date, the Frankfort Plant Board has not expressed interest in acquisition, but they do provide some assistance to us in a number of variety of ways, especially emergency operations. So those are some of the options we're looking at. We were negotiating with Kentucky American about a year ago. We put that on pause because Kentucky American had filed for a large rate increase. And we felt an obligation to our customers that we can't agree to go to Kentucky American without knowing what the actual cost. Then we looked at our cash position. So this is in the document, the last 5 to 6 years. we have been bleeding, and essentially we were not financially sound at all. So we made a little bit of improvement the last audit that's reported in there. But ultimately, what I advise the board is we need to move forward with a rate increase. Otherwise, we're going to dip into our reserves. That would have occurred by January coming up, and then another year we would have been in default. And we don't want to go into default. We have long-term debt obligations that we have to pay. So we retained Kentucky Rural Water, who conducted what's called a cost of service study. Our analysis indicated that rates needed to go up about 21%. The last rate increase, significant rate increase we've had, goes back to 2015. And the Public Service Commission came back in their analysis indicated that it should be a 28% increase. So the board accepted that. The Public Service Commission then placed the order. That order was issued on September 4th. And with the bills, so if you're a customer of Peaks Mill, the bills that have just gone out over the past several weeks, that cycle is for the September-October timeframe. So we've gone from roughly a $48 per month average bill for 4,000 gallons to over $60. That's clearly some of the highest in the region. The board's well aware of that, but we really had no choice to make that step. We've kept our customers updated. A year ago, we had a public meeting in March of 2023 to advise this is the challenge that we have. And then what we did, we just had another public meeting in July to get input from customers as well. All of our meetings are open to the public. We meet the second Monday of each month in the evening, and so we welcome anyone to come in. So that's kind of a summary of where we are. There is a statement in here, and this is Greg's opinion after being 40 years in the water business, is as a standalone entity, Peaks Mill Water District is not financially feasible long-term. So essentially, we bought ourselves 2 to 3, maybe 4 years of time. In the absence of grant funding coming in or getting some type of economy of scale by partnering with other water systems, we're not financially viable long-term. And this is the case for virtually every small water system in Kentucky. Yesterday, the attorney, Damon Talley of Kentucky Rural Water, advised us that his rule of thumb used to be you were financially viable at 2,500 customers. Peaks Mill has 1,250. And now he's moved that number to 5,000, primarily because of the regulations that are coming on us. So what we're seeing in Kentucky and all across the United States is consolidation of systems, whether it's through acquisition by a larger system or smaller systems that are merging together or sharing operations, sharing a general manager, that type of thing. So those are all options on the table. The board's not made any decision at this point. So we'll use this time. Our revenue, instead of declining and losing money, we were losing between $14,000 and $17,000 a month, and that's on a budget of $750,000. So we're not a multi-million-dollar organization, and we do not operate for a profit. So we have dipped into our reserves the last 6 years, and now it's time to essentially at least be fiscally responsible and then look at the options that would be available for the customers. Ultimately, that's our responsibility, is to the customers of the Peaks Mill Water District. So I'll pause there if there's any questions.
All right, thank you very much. All right, what questions do we have for Mr. Heitzman? Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you for being with us. Chairman Quarles, thank you for coming as well. So you've indicated that clearly moving forward at the current pace with just the standalone water district is not a long-term solution.
Correct.
To continue there.
In my opinion.
Oh, and I didn't know if Mr. Talley and or others, maybe others from the rural water district, had spoken to you all to kind of help shape that opinion, or is that based on your entire career? I mean, because coming in as a consultant.
It's based on my career as well as the Kentucky Rural Water Association. We had 3 experts there. The combined knowledge in that room, including myself, was over 120 years of water experience. And I personally, for example, I do consulting work for Lebanon and Springfield and drafted an agreement for them to share services. Those are 2 cities that are sharing the services. The Davies County Water District, which is just outside of Owensboro, was 3 water systems that essentially they combined together. So all the systems are looking for some type of economy in order to be able to survive long-term. Now, if you're fiscally sound and your rates are affordable, and generally you're 10, 15, 20,000 or larger, then you're likely financially stable. So the real crunch right now in this decade is going to be the small systems that serve, that have under 5,000 customers. So I agree with that position of Kentucky Rural Water.
So at the current pace, is there a projection as to when a decision needs to be made by the water district as to how it will move forward? Or will that decision be made for you at the Public Service Commission? I'm trying to get my arms
Yes.
around who
Yes,
forces the decision
So
point.
essentially, the initial decision is a responsibility of the board, essentially the Water District Commissioners. The Public Service Commission has the ability, if they fail to act, it can step in. It could order a merger, for example, or a consolidation. It does have that authority. That's pretty rare. Typically what occurs is a board recognizes, like this board did, that essentially it's losing money and there's no short-term solution. Therefore, retain Kentucky Rural Water to conduct the rate study that then determined that the rates needed to increase. So that's the process. My opinion is we're good barring a major infrastructure failure. When I say that, $100,000 natural disaster comes through with a tornado and does damage to a pump station or a storage tank. That type of thing would concern me. Absent that, then cash flow wise, I believe from the analysis we've done, we're good for 2 to 3 years. Costs are going to continue to go up. Right now we have what's called the lead and copper rule, which is a major burden on all systems across the United States, and that's an additional cost. So what's going to happen? It's buying us some time. So instead of losing money every month, by the time we get into February, March of next year, we're going to kind of be breaking even, but we're not going to be building our reserves.
So with the lead and copper rule, do you have to provide by a certain specific time information about how much of that is within the system to the PSC? Or
Yes.
because there's an analysis that has to be done, and I think the analysis is, I don't want to speak out of turn, but
Yeah,
somewhat
the update of
cumbersome
that-
and difficult.
it's very challenging,
Yeah.
driven by what occurred in Flint, Michigan.
Yeah.
And so all systems, all public water systems,
Right.
there's no exception in the United States, every public water system is required to conduct a service line inventory, both on the public and the private. The water industry said our responsibility is only to the meter on the public side, but essentially did not win that argument, and through the wisdom of EPA, they decided that to get the lead out, we need to address both the public as well as the private. So this past month, there was a deadline in the middle of October that all systems had to conduct an inventory and then identify those service lines and submit those to the state of Kentucky or whichever state the system resides in. And then what occurs is we have to send letters out, and they have to go out by November 14th, just a couple of weeks, that will advise all customers, whether it's on the public or the private portion. When I say service line, that's the pipe between the water main and the street all the way to your connection at your house, okay? The meter, in our case, the meter's in between, typically out by the road. So the public is water main to the meter, the private is the meter to the house. So if we have identified any what are called unknown, in other words, we do not know the material, and the only way you know the material is if you excavate it or you have a documented record, such as an engineered drawing or a standard. Currently, there is no technology that is available to, for example, to put inside the pipe or read the pipe above the ground. People are working on that, but nothing has been approved. So therefore, in Peaks Mill's case, we had 1,250 customers, about half, we were able to identify that the service line was put in after the lead ban of January 1st, 1988. But prior to that, we don't have the records available on the public or the private. So a letter will be going out to about 630 of our customers, likely next week for this deadline, and it will be telling those customers that we don't know the material type. Now, we don't believe we have any lead in this system at all. We've never seen it. Our legacy contract operator has never seen it. There's no indication that we have any lead in the Peaks Mill water system. But nonetheless, EPA has interpreted that if you don't know the material, it will be treated as if it is lead for regulatory purposes. So then what will happen over the next 2 years, there will be requirements for additional lead testing. The lead level is going to be reduced from 15 parts per billion to 10 parts per billion. So the operating requirements and the testing requirements are going to be much larger. That puts an additional cost. And then we will be obligated to go out and dig at least 20% of the unknowns and verify them in the field on both sides of the meter.
Even the public.
And the public, if it's coded as unknown. So that's an expense. We estimate something like that for our system will be $60,000, $70,000. That's a large expense for us that we currently don't have budgeted.
Is that to the point of source inside the home as well?
No, it's, you're allowed to excavate at the meter. You can also, in some cases, go to the home and where the pipe comes into the home, it could be in a crawl space or in a basement. If you can document what that type of material is, then the state will allow a reasonable assumption that it's that continuous material. So typically in our system, most rural systems in Kentucky used since the 70s a polyethylene pipe. Typically it's blue or black is typically what it is. So again, we've never seen lead, so this is, in my opinion, I would be shocked if we ever discovered any lead in the Peaks Mill water system. Older systems, the Louisvilles, the Frankforts, the older river cities do have stock of lead. So you can imagine, if this is a challenge for Peaks Mill water with 1,200 customers, imagine Chicago or Detroit or New York. So this is a major effort. There is federal funding available, but everybody's scrambling to get access to that federal funding.
Squire Tanner.
I got a couple of questions. Number one,
Yes, sir.
following up on the lead issue, if, who's going to be responsible if that line is lead-based or whatever's got in it? Who's going to replace that line?
What will occur in the regulation, if you do not meet the regulation, the new threshold for water quality, which is 10 parts per billion, there'll be requirements, accelerated requirements to replace that. It is unclear from the state of Kentucky, clearly let me back up, the public side will be the responsibility of the water district if it was
The
found.
public side, but
The public.
but the other side.
The private side is in question as to the responsibility. Now, the federal funds, the laws have been changed to allow federal funding to be used to replace both the public and the private. So that's kind of the first time, because typically the federal funds cannot be used on the private side.
But that's through a grant? Is that through a grant?
That would be through a grant. So, again, from our perspective at Peaks Mill, and I believe this would be generally for all of the water districts in Franklin County, I don't believe we're going to find it. I don't believe that's going to be an issue. It's going to be
Well, if
a
you get
challenge
down-
for urban systems.
You get down to 10 parts per million.
Parts per
Billion. I mean,
billion.
that's, anyway, that's a small amount.
That's a very small amount.
Okay. Do you gonna check it at the spigot at the house?
Yes, the new regulation requires more sample points, and it requires more volume taken, and it's a collection that would occur inside the homes.
Inside the home?
Correct. So what will happen is...
So what if somebody tells you ain't getting in my house?
That's a challenge. And we reported that to our state regulator, who reported it to the feds. So the reality is that becomes a major challenge, that all the systems in the United States are going to be...
Oh, yeah.
So-
The other question I have
Yes, sir.
is your loss is 25%, which is, I mean, to me, that's almost where you need to be anyway. This is for your leakage. But how much are you, when you flush the line, that's accounted for, but you still have to pay for it. That's not considered a loss, is that correct?
We often, correct. We have to report these numbers to the Public Service Commission, and we often call what you just talked about non-revenue water. So the water loss, it doesn't generate revenue, and neither does the flushing. If you add the two together, it's about 45%. So water loss is about 25. The PSC ordered us to put a plan together to reduce that water loss from 25 down to below 15. And they authorized what's called a water loss surcharge to be able to fund the improvements. The flushed water is about 20, so 20 plus 25 is about 45%.
I got one more, maybe comment. Are you familiar with the surcharge, the water loss surcharge? In your case, it's $3.09. Have you been involved in any of those before?
I have not personally been involved, but it is a practice when I was doing work for the Martin County Water District that we proposed there. So that was one of the first in the state. So this is the first one I've personally been involved with implementing. So our decision, when I went to the board, I said we can include it in our rate study. Because we're above 15, if we don't include it, we're going to be ordered anyway.
Well, I understand. I'm not trying to make an objection to it, because it's just, Sherry and I have experience with that surcharge. You probably know what I'm talking about, but I don't want to go down that road particularly.
Well, and what we will do is I will talk to lessons learned with other systems. So that revenue will come in, it goes into a dedicated reserve that can only be used for water loss.
Is that a full year? Is that a full year,
For 4
48
years.
months?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the other question I have is kind of policy, and this has been in my mind since some of the letters came out about asking you to merge or sell out or whatever it is. You all are more or less isolated. I mean, if somebody says, okay, we'll take it or buy it, who's going to have to pay for that? Those water customers out there, it's already going to be $64 a month.
Correct. There's two basic scenarios. So the practice of Kentucky American has been, and they've advised us, that what they would do if the system was acquired, they would equalize the rates likely at the next rate case that they have. They just finished a rate case. So generally they do rate increases every 2 to 3 years. Their rate currently is lower than the Peaks Mill rate. So the prize for that scenario would be at some point the rates would be reduced. So that's the advantage, one of the advantages of Kentucky American making the acquisition. The other scenario would be that if there's any decision on sharing services, then what it would do, in my opinion, is it would extend the amount of time before we need another rate increase. So depending on how much services we can share, instead of being 3 years worth of time we bought, it might be 5, as an example. The other model is if a larger system like a municipal system, say Frankfurt, for example, if another system came in, what you typically do is rural water systems, the costs are 99% of the time are always higher than the city systems. And the reason is the economy of scale. So what happens is the Peaks Mill rate would be here. A larger system like Kentucky American or Frankfurt would be here. So typically the model, and we talked about this yesterday, is you take that difference and essentially you see how much money will that generate over time to invest in the system to get a similar service level. That might be 2 years, it might be 10 years. Just depends on the deficiencies that exist. So I don't believe the board, I can't speak for the board, but I don't believe, and I would not advise them on an alternative scenario that would increase rates. Before we would do that, we would say, well, let's stay as a district ourselves. So we would compare, the obligation of the district board is to compare alternative A, alternative B, alternative C. C is as is, so we would compare where we are now. Does that make sense?
No, but I will listen to it anyway.
Okay.
Squire Harris.
I've been to several public meetings, and I was at the public meeting where it was brought up to, get the opinion of going with Kentucky American Water or raising the rates and staying in a private industry. It seemed like in the area they didn't want to go with a big corporation. They wanted to stay with their own. My problem with any of that is, if we've got 3 years, we have to make a decision. We're going to have to get ahead of it.
Correct.
It's going to have to, and my other question is, if we were to merge with other districts, can they absorb the loss that's gonna be incurred to equal out to where we're making money?
The practice in Kentucky is you freeze the rates. Now, there's a long-term goal always, which we were advised yesterday, that maybe 3 years or 5 years, or some projection where the rates would be equalized. And the premium that's paid by one district is used to be able to make the investment in that district to address those deficiencies. So that's the model that typically is practiced. Now, the advantage of any type of consolidation, there's a new $150 million fund that Kentucky has authorized, $75 million in this budget and $75 million in the next budget, and it's specifically for troubled water systems with high water loss, high rates, financial deficiencies, of which out of the 9 criteria, we qualify for 3. So the advantage of consolidation, it opens the door for eligibility for grant and low interest loan funds. So the state legislature recognizes that this is a challenge, and they've put money into it to help relieve that burden. So essentially you can equalize the sides, so to speak, because no system that has a lower rate wants to take on a burden of a system with a higher rate without assurances that there's equity among those customer bases.
Right.
So you are correct.
So with that, I mean, if it just extended us up to 5 years, in 5 years, are we still gonna be looking at the same problem? That's my issue.
No, I do not believe it. One way or another, and I believe this board is committed to getting a solution within the next 3 years. And we're gonna know which way we're gonna go.
Which direction we're going?
Yes.
That was my question.
Squire Blackburn.
You said you'd already had discussions with American Water.
Yes.
Have you spoken to other
I'd like to sit down.
water systems in Frankfurt?
In Franklin County?
Yeah.
We've had discussions with Elkhorn Water District. And Elkhorn, by the way, already shares services with Peaks Mill on the office side. So we already have some economy. Elkhorn is smaller than Peaks Mill, about half the size. We've had discussions with Farmdale. We had a
So
workshop.
my thing was, you're already reaching out. You've already got
Oh,
the ball
absolutely,
rolling
yeah, yes.
completely.
And we've had contacts and discussions, met multiple times with the Frankfurt Plant Board. We have not contacted systems outside of Franklin County. So right now, our focus is the systems that inside Franklin are the ones that we're focused on. We did contact, a number of years ago, I contacted North Shelby, that's northwest, and they said because of the terrain and the challenges, at that particular time, they were not interested. I'll probably make a phone call to them again to see if anything has changed, because it's been 2 years.
And the second thing I want to say is, I'm glad you're a consultant with them, and I appreciate all the work of the board and what you're doing.
Well, we've had a challenge.
And you definitely
A big challenge. And so we 3 steps forward, sometimes 2 back.
Squire Westman.
Yeah, thanks, Judge. In my understanding of the system, we really have 2 problems. One is the service lines, and one is the hierarchical structure. To my understanding, a big portion of the problem and the flushing and the ability to keep the chlorine deposits at the level they need to be is because the system was overbuilt size-wise in many areas. Do you have any estimation of how much of the system needs to just be physically replaced? Because in my estimation, that needs to become a priority or a cognizant thought of this body to start looking for ways we can make improvements countywide.
I'll break it into 2 buckets. So we have identified subdivisions that are in actually what we call Zone 1, the original system, or thereafter built in the 70s that are substandard. That's our priority because we believe that's where our largest leakage is.
Yeah.
So that we do have in our budget, and we every year we're considered for grant or low interest loan funds. So we have like 8 projects in the state database. The second issue you brought, which is primarily in northeastern Franklin and into Owen County, so we serve a portion of Owen County. That system was built in the mid-90s before all these regulations occurred on drinking water at the tap. So the prevailing thought at that time of the best engineers was the larger the line, the better. You get more efficiency, you get twice the flow for the amount of cost, 6-inch versus 4. So 6-inch water lines were installed with the idea that they could support growth. At the time, that was probably a good decision. Hindsight looking back, that was a poor decision because we may have only one customer every mile. So the amount of water that is stored in those pipes could be 30 to 45 days old.
Yeah.
So if we were to do it over today, we would have had more pump stations, smaller storage, and probably the largest line would have been 4. So the challenge with that is that system is not even fully depreciated yet. So our approach has been, let's try to manage it through best practices as opposed to replacing it, because that would be well over $1 million, $1.5 to $2 million that we just couldn't afford. So I don't have that project in the 10-year capital plan, but I do have recommended the project to replace, for example, the Stonewall subdivision is one of our challenges.
What's the total then of, you say 1.2 for the overbuilt part of the system, the oldest part of the system that you have on the books for active grant
That
applications?
project is in there, I believe it's about $750,000.
And the second part of my question is, I'm more familiar with my district, with North Shelby and US 60. I was just pulling up the customer numbers, and we have between Elkhorn, Peaks Mill, and Farmdale 4,624 point of sale customers, point of use customers, which in my mind makes sense that maybe something similar to North Shelby, who maintains separate boards for US 60 and Shelby, but share all services. And
Actually, that's a good, I should have referenced that instead of Davies County. That's been a model that's been in existence for 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
And they share resources, but they have 2 separate boards.
share staff, share equipment.
Share engineering, et cetera. So that's a poster child. That's an example of something that works effectively and provides that economy of scale.
So I know those conversations have happened, at least initially. Could you update us to the point of what those conversations have been with Elkhorn and Farmdale?
We had a workshop yesterday, and the purpose of that was to begin those discussions. Elkhorn chose not to participate, but Farmdale chose to participate. So the full board of Peaks Mill, the full board of Farmdale, were at the workshop yesterday. We started at 8, finished about 12:30, 1 o'clock, and we had the Kentucky Rural Water expert attorney and the finance person and the operations person, as well as the head of the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority, Sandy Williams, came, and she presented all the grant funds and loan funds that would be available to assist us. So everybody is, I think, open to the idea, but everybody wants, to your point, what's the bottom line going to be? What's the impact on rates going to be? And generally speaking, in order to be able to make this system in Franklin County, even if they were combined long range, there's going to have to be some financial support in some way. Otherwise, you're going to see every 2 or 3 years, rates are going to be going up another 20%. So that's just the writing on the wall for all of our systems.
Do you know why Elkhorn chose not to participate? Is that because they already share staff with?
I've got secondary information, but I'd rather not publicly say. So
they're the smallest by far.
They were invited, and I will say this, is they're in pretty good shape. They're a smaller system. They don't have the challenges. They have higher density, a little bit newer. The stock is not as old. So I can see, I was hoping they would come to the table because we already have a partnership, because there could have been real opportunity for them, their board members, to learn the benefits. It's no requirement what we did yesterday. It's just opening the leadership of each district as to the opportunities that exist out there.
And just a final comment, I've met with North Shelby quite a lot, and I think there was an expression just recently in a meeting I was at a couple months ago that there's no desire to service that side of the county because of the topography of going under the river.
It's across the river.
Getting there is
logistic.
2 hours in some instances to go around for them. That's just really not feasible. So.
And that was, frankly, yesterday, that was a challenge. If you look at Farmdale's district, you look at Peaks Mill, essentially one's on the southern end of the county, one's on the northern end of the county. So there are, some distance and topography challenges. Thank you. Great questions.
Thanks.
Mr. Heisman, we appreciate you being here tonight. There's a lot of good questions. I think it was a great conversation. I learned more than I thought I was going to learn tonight about water.
Thank you.
And by the way, Church Quarles, I appreciate all the years you've served on the board, and please let Ross and Mary Beth know that we appreciate them serving also, because I know it's a tough thing.
I will.
All righty, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Yep. All righty. It's a great presentation. Next, any questions on our regular meeting minutes from October 16th, 2024? All righty, seeing none, I believe our county clerk, Mr. Jeff Hancock, is with us tonight. How you doing this evening, Jeff?
Doing very well. How you doing, Judge?
Doing well, thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Squire, Court, County Attorney Comley, thank you all for having me today. Couple things. Our quarterly report, as you see, we are on budget to exceed. I will tell you that the reconciled bank account, which is the account that it ends up being excess fees, that you see on the final line of $635,572. I would not assume that number to grow much, and the reason I say that is we are going into probably the most expensive election cycle that we've ever had. This election cycle is ramped up to show some historic turnouts. I will tell you that our mail-in ballot absentees are up tremendously, which costs money. As you know, 3-day early voting starts tomorrow in 3 locations. I'm expecting around 10,000 people to utilize early voting in those 3 locations over the next 3 days. That will be a great number. That means we're moving forward on how elections are processed, and we're starting to use all the available resources out there. And then we'll have another approximately 20,000 people vote on Election Day, which is next Tuesday. So I kind of jumped around there. But on our quarterly report, we gave you, we're at $635,572 on the excess fees. We've already hit some of the estimated bank numbers and the year-to-date numbers. I assume that we won't come in flat on revenues at all. I think our revenues will exceed what I projected in my budget for 2024. And I think that after looking at it and thinking about it for a while, if you'll look into instead of giving you all have got the full quarterly report there, which gets it gets busy. It's got each quarter in it, and then it's got your final numbers out to the end of what we've done, what we projected, and what we thought we were going to project. We're not going to miss any revenue base, and I do not assume that we'll have any changes to our budget from our original budget presented to you all last November. The one thing that I will tell you is we are trying to get through this election the best we can in the budgeted amount we can. If we had to do anything amendment-wise, it would be on the election base. This election is going to prove to be very taxing. We've had to have extra resources just to produce and get the amount of mail-in absentees that we've needed to get out to our citizens in Franklin County. We're working, the amount of comp time that some of my employees will have they'll be able to take off the entire year of 2025 if I don't let them go home soon. So they're doing a great job. I want to brag on my team a little bit. My team has done an amazing job in all aspects of the Clerks Association, Clerks World. Our motor vehicle is doing a great job. Our land records is doing a phenomenal job, and obviously our elections. I think you'll have some of the best results in the state of Kentucky out of this election. So, are there any questions on the quarterly?
Any questions for Mr. Hancock? All right, what else you got, Jeff?
What's the next one? For the tax bill preparation, that's where you all pay half, state pays half of it, I think. No, that's not motor vehicle. Which one? Do you have a copy of that? Because she didn't hand that to me. It's for preparing the tax bills. These are the ones that are sent out by the sheriff. Some people have already seen these. This is a formality. It's what we get reimbursed for the actual payment of the tax bills. They cost more than that, but that's the reimbursement that we get. Any questions on that one? Here you go. The official report of the property tax bills is something that is given to us by the state of Kentucky. That is the estimate based on growth, and Sheriff Quire asked me to take his proxy today and announce and ask if you all had any questions on that. He's in the middle of a trunk or treat and helping the community make sure they send their kids to the
You picked
dentist.
that over fiscal court meeting tonight?
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions on Sheriff Quire's agenda item here? Jeff, as always, we thank you.
The audit should have been on
that's right,
there.
you skipped over that one, yep.
Was it the first one?
Yeah, it was the
Oh,
first
I
one,
missed
yeah.
that one, my bad. Audit came in for the 2023 year. And what I was going to say about, for my budget that I'm going to turn in, I'm going to use their format, which is on pages 6, 5, 4, 5, and 6. I think it really shows a little bit better, and it's not as hard to read as the document that we've used in the past. It'll show you actual revenues. It'll show where our revenues came from. It'll show where the money goes and where the distribution base is. I think it's a lot easier and neater and cleaner. It'd be cleaner for you all to understand and see what we do on a regular basis. So I plan to present that in that format when I come in November. But I'm very proud. Once again, I think that's our 10th straight clean audit. So I'm very, very proud of the clerk's office and I've had the exact same bookkeeper and the entire time I've been here. She does an amazing job, and she works hard at it. So Tara does a really nice job.
Any questions for Mr. Hancock on the audit?
Got 30 more seconds to talk about elections.
Yes, very important, go ahead.
Yep. Elections starting tomorrow. Your early voting locations on the east side of town are the Capital City Christian Church. I want to thank them for allowing us to continue to use their very nice atrium area. It's a great place. It's comfortable. It's got plenty of parking. I welcome anybody that hadn't been out there to go out there and vote. The one downtown is the Yes Arts building. And if you haven't been in there, you should have been in there the first time I did elections there. The first time I did elections there, I was a little scared to go in the place by myself. At this point, they have done an amazing job cleaning it up and making it a beautiful place. It has art on the wall. It's very lit up. Please, if you want to go somewhere downtown, please use the Yes Arts building. On the west side of town, we have the Senior Center. The Senior Center is by far one of the most welcoming places we have. It sits right in the middle of the aging communities. We'll have a lot of voters go in and out. At every location, we will have high school attendees out there, making sure that anyone with any needs, handicap needs, any wheelchair needs will be out there, that they can have help getting in and out of the locations. We also will be handing out sample ballots down the line on not only election day, but early voting. These sample ballots will allow everybody to know what they're looking forward to seeing before they get in there. With the constitutional amendments, they are a little bit longer. We're expecting a little bit longer lines and a little bit longer wait. We still think we have it down to no more than a 25-minute line at every location. We went over and beyond to make sure that we could serve all the citizens of Franklin County in a timely manner. So we hope that you all utilize and let anyone know that early voting will be open from 8 to 4 tomorrow. It'll be open from 8 to 6 on Friday and 8 to 4 on Saturday. I want to also thank the maintenance department. Greg and his guys did a phenomenal job helping me get delivered today. The fire department for allowing us to come out there and interrupt their daily practices by being there on election day. With our 2 rural locations, as you know, it's always a challenge for me to find a location in the rural locations that has parking, that has handicap accessibility. I know it's inconvenient for the fire department, but they really do a nice job hosting us, and not only Bald Knob, but Schweitzer. The road department, which will help us deliver all day on Monday. The sheriff's office for always being accommodating, and Sheriff Dwayne Depp sits on my board for the Board of Elections and does an amazing job. The county attorney has always been there to make sure he gets our officers sworn in. So this is a county-wide thing, and I always get great support out of every agency that I ask. So thank you, guys.
All right, any questions for Jeff on the upcoming elections or anything else that he has presented tonight?
I
Squire
just want to
Dunkins.
say that you guys are doing a fantastic job, and I really, really appreciate it. This is super important. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Squire. Jeff, thank you very much. Have a
Thank
good
you,
evening.
guys.
All righty, next, this is something fun and exciting to talk about. I believe Amy Snow is hanging out over there. So we discussed this. In front of you is a lease that we have talked to Amy about, and just want to kind of get everyone's thoughts on it. So basically, for anybody watching, this is what we're talking about is Franklin.
Oh, I thought you represented this one.
You good, Squire? Yeah?
Maybe, I'm coming back.
Okay, make sure everything's good over there. So what we are talking about, we have an exciting opportunity. We have a vacant building, and we had a presentation from Amy Snow and her amazing team about starting a Boys and Girls Club that they have been working on for months and months with the Wanda Joyce Foundation and all kinds of great people. So we had talked about that in a previous meeting here at the Fiscal Court to offer them the building that we own up on West Main Street. So that is what is in front of you, is a lease agreement that would be renewed annually. You want to say anything? I mean, I think this is amazing. Like this
It
is
is amazing. You know, we started this conversation about developing a Boys and Girls Club last October, so it's pretty neat that here we are a year later and we're actually have this opportunity in front of us. Really quick, I just want to explain the relationship between the Boys and Girls Club of Frankfort and the Wanda Joyce Robinson Foundation. They are 2 separate legal entities. They have their own boards that run each organization. Wanda Joyce office will remain in the basement of Thornhill. With the building, we anticipate hiring staff. We anticipate funding for that staff to become available through some private donations that will sustain for 12 months, potentially 24 months. The Franklin County, there's a Boys and Girls Club of Franklin County, but there is also an umbrella entity that's created, Boys and Girls Club of the Capital Area. So that will provide structure between and oversight of the Frankfort Club as well as a Lexington Club that is being developed as well. And so we see hiring a Frankfort Club director as well as some direct staff, program development professionals. About 5 to 6 of those, maybe 2 would be hired through the Boys and Girls Club, and the remainder of those positions potentially with a work study through Kentucky State University. That's just a discussion that's occurring at this time, nothing set at this time. But we are very excited about this opportunity.
Squire Harrod.
I'd just like to say I'm very proud of the time and the commitment that you put in for these kids. They really need it. You know, some of them that's been left behind, it gives them a way out. You know, it gives them a way to move on with their life and see what the positive side of life's about. And I just think what you're doing is great, and I appreciate you very much and your staff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Squire Westman, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, Judge, at the last meeting, I'm completely supportive of this moving forward, But in terms of the lease agreement, I had expressed that I wanted to see the current market rate value for rent of that building, and the difference between what we were actually going to lease it to the organization and the market rate being declared a contribution in kind to the organization, because they can then use that as better support for match grants. So I want to make sure that we include whatever that is. I imagine the market rate for that building, as the size it is, would be $5,000 or more a month in the private industry. But, you know, at a $60,000 private in-kind contribution to the organization, that would help leverage a lot of grant funds that I'd like to see expressed somehow in the lease agreement formally, what that valuation is before we move forward. So, if that makes sense to everyone.
It makes a lot of sense. I think getting grant match, like in-kind matches like that is really difficult, and they're gonna need it. They're gonna need that help. So it is something we should probably add to the lease.
So is that something you all are comfortable with Max and I working on and putting in there, or?
I
you know,
am, yeah.
We'll come.
Just as an addendum
Yeah,
or something,
yeah.
yeah.
We
I
can
would
rework
imagine
that
a
in there.
Private appraiser or something in town might give
Yeah.
us just an estimate of what they
Square
think.
footage amount, yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty common. We can make a
Just-
couple phone calls and get that.
And just put it in that the rate of rental is the $2,000 a year, which, you know, maybe you'll come up with something, but why not make it $1? And then whatever the difference between the market rate that we're contributing that in kind, because they'll be able to use that, and that could be, you know, significant. Perhaps that could be as much as $100,000
Yeah.
of in-kind contribution to them that would make their books look a lot better for grant
Okay.
applications.
That's great. It's a great idea, Squire. Any other comments, concerns? Squire Dykes.
I'm just gonna say, you know, I brought this up at the last meeting, and I have not had a lot of time to work on it yet, but I did talk to a couple of folks today at the lunch, and we're gonna get this started, raising these funds, so be on the lookout for me to send you an email and
Yep.
tell you when we're gonna start and how
Yep.
it's gonna work, okay?
Yeah, I think we all need to come together and figure it out, you know what I mean?
I think this season's the perfect
Yeah.
time to do it, because we're all thinking about kids right now.
Very good. Amy, again, thank you to you and the boards you're creating, your boards, their boards, and all the other people. It takes a village, you know?
It absolutely does.
And I am very appreciative of the Fiscal Court here, that they have opted to use our building in this way. And I think, like Squire Harrod said, if we can get to these kids and get them turned around before they start going down the road the wrong way, this community's gonna be a whole lot better off. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Alrighty, next, I believe Max is gonna talk about this a little bit. It's a little confusing to me, but why we're even involved. But Max, can you explain this one?
I believe I can. I was approached by an attorney representing Bluegrass Community Action Agency, and apparently, previously, the CAECO did a quitclaim deed which deeded an interest in this property to the Franklin County Fiscal Court. However, CAECO never had an ownership interest in that property. And when that deed transferred that interest, it then made this property then tax exempt. So the county has not been getting taxes off of this piece of property, in addition to putting a cloud on the title. So if this entity ever wants to transfer this piece of property or sell it, they aren't able to do so because of this cloud on the title, and so with that, there is a quitclaim deed deeding the interest in this piece of property that we were wrongfully deeded to the Bluegrass Community Action, so it clears up that cloud on the title. And look, I've included some documentation in there in which the reference of, I think it was a 2022 deed, referenced a previous lease agreement that was never a deed, it was just a lease. And so I don't know where the communication breakdown came, but like I said, it's put a cloud on the title. This would then make this property non-tax exempt, so then the county would then start getting property taxes off of this piece of property while also clearing up this cloud on the title.
Squire Blackburn.
Who granted them the deed?
CAECO. If you look, there was an old CAECO,
I was gonna say the documents.
it's all there, there's an old CAECO lease back from that is referenced in the
It's
quitclaim
OD.
deed.
It's older than that. Because it references John Hanley. August 23, of '03, I'm sorry.
Because if you look, I included the deed back, it's deed 616, page 180, that deeds this property from KCDC to the Bluegrass Community Action. So that's where they got the property. That was done the 23rd of September, 2022. So like I said, I don't know why the quitclaim was done to the county, but the county does not own this piece of property.
So Max, let me ask you a question for clarification. So this has obviously been a nonprofit agency on this piece of parcel, right? Should they have been paying property tax all these years?
It would be up to that nonprofit organization to apply for an exemption, right, Max, through the state, and the state to determine whether they qualify
But where the
for
county
standard
had
or
the
not.
ownership interest of the property
Right,
by that
and
deed.
We can't go back.
I
can't go
know,
back.
it's interesting.
So this is basically clearing up that situation that occurred several years ago. To then put them back on the tax rolls. And should they want to try to get an exemption in the future, they could apply for that, but that has not been done, as that's not been needed to be done up to this point in time.
So Max, clarify me, the lease agreement that's referenced in here that would have ended last May for 20 years just was never executed? But it seems to be odd.
Which it's somewhat confusing because you don't typically file memorandums of leases,
Yeah.
which was done back in '03.
Okay, that was the most confusing part.
Yes.
We never really figured out how we got in the middle of it. Cliff notes, right?
In
It
talking
seems-
with the representative of this agency, they didn't know how we got in the middle of it either, but here we are, and so I'd like to take us out of the middle of it
Yep.
by this deed, and then get them back on the tax rolls, so we can potentially get some property taxes off this piece of property that was deeded for a significant amount of money a couple of years ago.
Squire Tanner.
Well, no comment much, except I believe they changed the way they do that now, and they just lease you the money. And they don't take title to anything. So, that, if you wanna buy a fire truck over there, they'll lease you the money to buy it with.
Could we look at, sort of related, I suppose, some of the other properties? This building, in fact, is still listed in our PVA's Keiko Leasing Trust, that I thought was, from looking at the deeds, a discrepancy that probably shouldn't be. But maybe we need to look at some of our other real estate holdings as well.
If there's a specific piece of property that somebody would like me to look into, I can definitely do that, but going on a parcel by parcel search through all of Franklin County may be somewhat time consuming.
I believe-
23,000.
I believe Jack has pulled a list we talked about, right, of all properties, but this building we're in specifically was the one that I was concerned of why it was held in the Keiko Leasing Trust's name instead of the court's.
All right, any other questions for Max on this one? All righty, seeing none, the next agenda item, I believe Penny Peebler is gonna come up and talk to us about tonight. There she is. Good evening, Penny.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank
I'm
you for
Penny
being here.
Peebler. I'm the interim director of KCDC, so thank you for having me. Last year, KCDC received a Phase 1 grant from the Kentucky Economic Development Cabinet to explore the efficacy of a new industrial park in Franklin County. This grant gave Franklin County and Anderson County, as well as the city of Frankfort, the opportunity to begin the exploration, to look at whether the parameters would be there, whether the land would be there, whether the services could be brought. And so the last year was spent exploring those opportunities, and now we're really at the end of that first part of Phase 1, and the next phase is to form a regional entity with Lawrenceburg and Anderson County and the city of Frankfort. As you know, Team Kentucky takes a regional approach to economic development, and there are a number of these such projects being formed throughout the state right now, including Warren County, Rockcastle County, and Woodford County, together with Lexington and Scott County. So the opportunity here is a resolution which would authorize the judge to continue exploring that opportunity and on behalf of you. And in the next phase, a regional entity could then be formed, which could begin to do some prospecting about what potential industries could come to Franklin County to bolster the tax rolls in occupational taxes. This, after some exploration with Compass Municipal Advisors, it became really obvious that the return on investment was not there in a big way unless there was a sort of a catalytic event for Franklin County. And the parameters that have been set is that we would be looking for a project with a minimum of 1,500 jobs. And so that's a large number of jobs, but it's a multi-year commitment. And so what this resolution really does is allow that grant application to remain active. It's a $4 million grant from the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development that can be used to develop the project, and there's a match required from all 4 of the municipalities. So that's what's really before you today. It's not a specific project. It's an opportunity to I would say, put a line in the water and see if there is an interested party that would like to look seriously at Franklin County, that's of that size and of that scope. And then at that time, those opportunities can be vetted through Planning Commission and the ability to get the land rezoned in the location that would be interested in having it, and just to look at the potential opportunity, over the long term for that kind of growth. So that's really what I'm here to say, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions. This is simply just the next stage in the grant application, which was previously applied for. And we've been working together with Anderson County, City of Lawrenceburg, and the City of Frankfort, really for the last year to explore the efficacy of this and see if it was worth pursuing. And so we would like the additional time to consider exploring that. We don't feel that we have fully explored the benefits and the risks and what the opportunities are. Is there a real opportunity for Franklin County? And we would like to continue exploring that. So then, as we're developing this economic strategic plan, the community can work together to envision the type of industry and the type of commercial growth, that it would like to see. Does it want to see a subsector in biotech? Does it want to see Kentucky is trying to win the automotive future. That's where a lot of the conversation is around advanced manufacturing in the auto sector, both in electric vehicles as well as in internal combustion vehicles. I mentioned biotech, agritech. Today we were together with Kentucky State's Engineering Department at a potential project. And so there are a lot of subsectors that are not yet located in Franklin County that could be a target. And so that's really what we're here with this resolution for. It's a necessary instrument as a part of the Cabinet for Economic Development's Product Development Grant Initiative.
All righty, thank you. What questions do we have for Penny tonight?
I have one question.
Squire Tanner.
You talked about $4 million match. Is that between, that's what all the entities involved together? So we're talking about 500,000 each, is that?
Well,
And
I
that's not
think
upfront money either, is that correct or not?
that's not upfront money. That is when the project is activated. You commit to spend that when the project is activated. And so right now, the model calls for an equal percentage, $2 million from the conglomerate of Anderson County and Lawrenceburg, and $2 million from the conglomerate of the city of Frankfort and Franklin County. Now, as I mentioned previously, KCDC has $1 million, which could be activated for this purpose. It's in a land account. It's generated by the sale of previous land. And so the board can be requested to put that in. So that would be $1 million, and then the city of Frankfort and Franklin County then each $500,000, and that meets the 50% commitment of Franklin County and the city of Frankfort. So these regional parks are, this is the prevailing wisdom at this time, and from the Cabinet for Economic Development. There are a lot of industries that are not yet here that Kentucky is trying to attract, and I've greeted you previously about the Team Kentucky Economic Development Plan. So I see this as the next step in that exploration. That plan calls for looking at the specialness of each county. Franklin County is very special for a variety of reasons. It also has special geology and geography. And so those things have to be respected and taken into account in any kind of exploration. But there are opportunities here with Kentucky State's new engineering school, advanced manufacturing school, and two-year program. They intend to grow that. And so there are a lot of sectors that could make a lot of sense here that need to be explored.
Gardakis.
This kind of thing always makes me a little anxious.
Sure.
To be honest, and it's not my thing either. However, I'm going to say that Penny has been great about explaining this really well and helping me understand what's going on, so that I'm not freaking out when I'm up here trying to figure out how to vote on things. But, and Penny does too, I think. We're all concerned about what kind of industry would come in here. We don't want anything, and Penny agrees with this, that would harm our water system, that would harm any of our natural resources. We don't want that. But we do have to have something where our kids want to stay here and they can make money living here. And so this is it's a hard one for me. And I'm usually the one that votes against this stuff, so I felt like I needed to speak out just to say that this is an opportunity to educate ourselves about industry that might be interested in us. We don't have to do anything.
That's right.
We have to do absolutely nothing, and we should do nothing if the right thing doesn't appear before us and isn't interested in us, and it doesn't, go along with what we want to see in our community. And we have full control of that. So I'm just, for those who are, worried about it, as I was when I first started hearing this, I think it's really important. We won't know until we open it up and see what's out there. We're not going to know. I love the idea of robotics. There are several things that I really like the idea of that I don't think would damage what we have, but would bring in really good paying jobs. And I think it's important to know that. We may not get anything. We may get no bites at all. We don't know. But unless we continue this, we're never going to know. There's no chance for that kind of growth at all. So.
Thank you, Squire. Squire Sebastian, I believe, did your hand up?
No, thank you, Judge.
Okay.
Thank you for being with us tonight. In the documentation we received, there are a couple of clauses here that have some red language in them.
Contingencies?
Yes, so I'm going to ask a couple questions just about that.
Yes.
So in the fifth whereas clause, could you just explain a little bit about that additional language? Because it mentions rezoning, and I want to make sure I understand the intent of that.
Yeah, so the reason it's drawn out in red in the document is to draw your attention to what I call the guardrails or the contingencies that help the regional partners understand what we are seeking and what we are not seeking, right? And so the first one is we would not spend this money developing anything until, as such a time, the requisite property that would be selected, which is not identified at this time, would be rezoned. So there's a rezoning process. All of those things, all of those authorities having jurisdiction have to be part of that. That's part of the vetting process. So that language is intended to say, this is not a spec build project, right? This is not where we're going to go ahead and start something. I mean, we couldn't start to build anything anyway until land was rezoned. But this is to say, that's the first guardrail. If it can't be rezoned, if the land that's necessary can't be put together, then it's a no-go, okay? So that's contingency number one. Would you like me to kind of go through each one? Because there's three. Then in the next whereas clause, it's that we are seeking, these four partners, the City of Frankfort, the Fiscal Court of Franklin County and Anderson County, and the City of Lawrenceburg, are working together in a regional way to attract projects with 1,500 good-paying jobs appropriate for a mega site as currently envisioned. So in other words, this is envisioned as a regionally transformative project for Anderson County. It's not envisioned to be something that looks like small development over time, because we know what that looks like in our existing industrial parks. And I would venture to say that the external push-pull sometimes causes us to make decisions which may be good in the short term, but actually are really not good in the long term for the community and for the way the community develops. You know, let's say, for instance, if you have an area which is industrial, and then there's a piece of land there, and somebody wants to build a subdivision, and it's the right time to do that, and so then you have all this industry, and then you have this subdivision. Those are really not, generally, I'm not a planner, but things that you want to co-locate, you know, real tightly together, right? And so you could make a decision to do that, but then 10 years later you would go, oh, this is an area that has a future land use designation as industrial, but there's only 26 acres there. And actually, you know, today I was in a meeting with the cabinet, and it was our regional meeting of our 9 counties that meet together every month. And the average size of a parcel that a business is looking at in the state of Kentucky right now is a minimum of 300 acres. They don't always take 300 acres, but they want to know that that's available. I'll give you an example of that. So for instance, 45 years ago, next year, when Toyota came into this market, Topi was the very first Tier 1 supplier to come in, longtime employer in Franklin County, make all the wheels for every car manufacturer you can think of. You know, they've got a whole farm out there adjacent because they knew 45 years ago that they were going to need to expand, and so they've been able to expand over time because that land has been tied up. It's still ag, but it's still a farm, but they own it, and so it's there for them. And that's the kind of thinking, I guess, that I'm trying to have us bring to this discussion, because really we're institutional people. We're here for the 100-year view, right? We want to look at, and so that's not my decision to make. That's this body's decision and the Planning Commission, right? But we need to set up to do our best prospecting. And I'd like us to do that so at least we can settle on the direction that the community wants to go. If the community doesn't want to pursue this, then it won't be pursued, right? You all vote based on, but now we're sort of stopping in the middle if we don't give ourselves that opportunity to go and look. And by setting these guardrails, we have put in place a list of what may make financial sense for the long term. So when Compass prepares those models, they can give you projections about what could be expected. Because one of the things that I want to remind any member of the public that's watching tonight to know is that economic development is a multi-legged stool. It has 3 or 4 different prongs, and industrial development is just one part of that. But the city and county budget is about 70 to 80% made up of occupational tax dollars. That's the taxes that are collected as a percentage of the wages that are earned in this county. A very small percentage, relative to 100%, really comes in from those property taxes. That's why the jobs are important. And we have a burgeoning tourism industry that we're trying to lean into now, that's built by arts and culture as well as by bourbon. We have the specialness of our rural heritage that has to be honored, but we also have a pretty deep advanced manufacturing sector here already. We have thousands of people who are employed in that sector. And so, in advanced manufacturing, as you said, Squire Dicus, is incredibly robotic. I just toured a factory yesterday where the robots were welding, the robots were sorting, that's what it is. And they need engineers, engineering techs, robotics, roboticists, designers. These are the jobs of the future. There's also professional services. That's the 4th leg. We're the state capital. But the professional services sector doesn't seem to be building a lot of office space or even occupying. We've had conversations with this body about the number of office properties in Franklin County that now need to be adaptively reused. And so some of those can be reused for what we call small scale manufacturing, 5,000 square feet with a dock, and those kinds of things are options too. So this is really an opportunity to explore with our neighbor Anderson County what the opportunities are, because everything in economic development is going to a regional approach. It is a regional approach.
And I just want to add that, we had a really good conversation, and then I had it with someone else as well, that, after COVID, everything changed. I mean, everything changed. The way we do things changed, and people that used to come to Franklin County to work no longer work here. They work from home in Lexington, Louisville, and Richmond, and wherever they are. It has changed the landscape. It's changed the way that we do things, and so we have to remember that. Also, state government doesn't pay that well. It just doesn't. So, in my estimation, we have to at least look out there to see what we can do differently. We got to bring in more money. We know that.
Well, the time is now, because Kentucky has had more catalytic economic development in the last 3 years than it's had in the last 30. Kentucky's on fire in that sense of job growth, job creation in all sectors. And so that's why I believe the time is now to do this exploration. I'm not committed to the outcome. I'm committed to the process, and that's my job, to bring the opportunity for the process.
Yeah, Judge, Penny, thank you for representing. I know this predates you, and I want to be as transparent with the public as we can about this instance, how it developed, and concerns. There was a discovery by your predecessor that if we did a joint effort with another county, we'd qualify for more money, right? The $4 million is because 2 to Anderson County, 2 to us. We don't have to have another county join us in this. And I think we can all read through the inferences that the only reason we're considering a joint effort is because we have an adjoining property line where there's ideally some property that would make good use for an industrial development. I'm quite frankly of the opinion, based on your comments, Squire-Dicus, that industrial parks as a whole are a horribly outdated concept that we need to get past and start looking at what works distinctly for our region, our community, instead of build it and hope they'll come, right? Now, I realize that there's also been a number of conversations over the last couple of years about what type of property or development that we could put in some of these places. Distilleries are hot right now. There's other things, of course, going on throughout the state that are hot that could be potential here. But I want to fight back against the idea that I've heard in our community that this might be an attempt to sort of backdoor a new distillery on the heels of one that was proposed that was very well seated in this community and really divided the community over what that potential was, right? I want to make sure that anything we do ever allows our citizens to have plenty of time and input, and I don't want to do anything that lets the camel's nose under the tent, right, to begin a snowball that then we don't stop. I will use the example of KCDC, which I feel like is on a good track right now, but for many years, in my opinion, was a complete rogue organization that worked directly against the elected officials of this community and the citizens' interests. And I'll remind us all that our comprehensive planning process and our comp plan is the wishes of our citizens, and that's what directs development and directs our decisions as an elected body, whether we have independent organizations with citizens that want to drive one initiative or elected officials that want to drive another initiative. The comp plan is what is the legally binding document between the citizens and us. And if we don't follow what the citizens want, I say it all the time, then there's legal repercussions that the citizens can take to stop development that they don't want to see in the community. And if that means that a community wants to say, I remember a great example is Savannah, Georgia, when urban renewal, right, was all the rage. The citizens of Savannah decided, no, we're going to keep something that's unique to us. We're going to keep our history. We're not going to tear down any buildings, and now look at it, right? At the time, they were told they were crazy, that this is the only way to save their community, but now they're what everybody wants to be. If the citizens of our community decide that they don't want any type of industrial development in our community, that's their prerogative, if the overwhelmingly majority says that. So I am concerned about the timing of all of this. My understanding was the Planning Commission took up a zone change or a change, in the comprehensive plan, future land use maps, that was nullified because it was an improper action. It wasn't properly notified for some land that this might or might not relate to. I'm editorializing a lot, but I want to set some things out for the public and the community. With that said, because we are in this planning process, which should have been finished long before now, again, it's been over 5 years in the process, we're now at the point that we should be doing a rewrite, and we're just now getting to the point of adopting something. I think everything related to any conversation of creating a new entity within a community is premature until that final law document is established, and I don't feel like it's appropriate to base it on past land use maps or past comp plan, because we know that's 20 years outdated. Some other things that have been said, that this is our one opportunity to explore some opportunities for types of businesses and things that want to come here. Well, that's not quite true, right? KCDC is already tasked with that duty. We already have industrial lands on the books throughout our community. Although some of them may be small scale, we have industrial parks that are not filled out entirely yet. We have parcels that we all know across the community with offices and old shopping centers that need to be looked at more actively for redevelopment, for what those things can be productive in the future, where infrastructure is less costly because it already exists. And we need to find some conduits, in my opinion, first and foremost for that, because that's dragging down our community. All of those costs to maintain those facilities that are not productive or producing to our community. And I'll remind everyone that there is a cost to develop undeveloped land, to run sewers, water systems, as we heard tonight. We have 3 water systems that are unsure, one of which would be servicing, this area potentially. We've got a lot of things to figure out, and at current, my perception personally of Anderson County is not a community that necessarily meets the values of Franklin County in terms of land use, particularly land use policy and planning. I'll say that's my opinion. Everyone else will have another opinion. So I'm concerned gravely about creating an entity that is equal amongst 2 counties that can then sort of replicate a model that we just had a year ago with KCDC that could get away from us and work against all of our wishes. If there are strong, personalities that decide that this is what they want and what they're going to go for and forget everyone else. The way that we've created these organizations in the past has allowed for that. And I really have despised that because we've all spun our wheels far too much to try to create good development and opportunity in this community. And the entities that were supposed to be doing that for us weren't listening. Or weren't even meeting or responding to us, quite frankly. Thankfully, you're in the interim role, and that has changed drastically in the last few months, and you're communicating very well with us. But for my opinion, currently, this is premature. But I want to ask you, Penny, if other than the financial obligation of assistance from another county to meet the match and potential for additional dollars from the Economic Development Cabinet, what are the benefits of working with another community in this instance? Can you speak on that?
Economic development is regional now. The cabinet takes a regional approach to economic development, and the best practices in the economic development field point to the regionalization. There are others here tonight that could speak more eloquently than myself about other regional projects that are happening in the state. And I believe that a regional approach to economic development is the path of the future, because people don't live within county lines. They work in one county, live in another county. I'll give as an example, we did some exploration about the number of counties that come into Franklin County to work every day, not including people who come in for state business that come in from all over the state. But there are 7 counties represented working in Franklin County on a regular basis right now. So there is already a regional nature to economic development. And I guess I would say that, to answer your question very directly, I believe that regionalism is the future best practice of economic development. Now, whether or not Franklin County has chosen the best partner for that is not really for me to say or not say. But regionalism is the practice. And I think, as I said, I think there are others that can speak to that more eloquently than me. But that is the way that the state is looking at economic development. And as we really create our new strategic plan for economic development, we're going to be taking, and are tasked with taking, the data that was all crunched to create the state's plan and carving out what is our specific role in that. Again, looking at our strengths, at our unique geology and geography, and the industries that are already present in Franklin County. And there is quite a bit of industrial development in Franklin County. There's more to come. And so I would say why now is as a tandem process to cast a line and see what's there while we're pulling this data and look at the subsectors and see, is there something we can lean into that people in the community feel is going to be good? I think we're pretty clear on what people feel is not the right approach. But where we have a little bit of incongruence is what is the right approach. And I see this as a path to get us to the answer to that question. And then we can figure out who can drive that process to get us there. But let's go through the process of figuring out what we actually want.
I appreciate that. And let me just follow up on saying that for too long, our community has defined industrial development as four walls, creation of something. But other states are doing very creative things, and Kentucky is leading the nation in agriculture, right, as an industrial development opportunity. I think we have got to go through, and I've said since you have been coming, we have to define what that means to our community first and foremost. And it may mean 10,000 things, and we hone in on 3.
Right.
And that's what we as a community agree that we want and what we'll support, whether that is bourbon, agriculture, or tourism-related institutions, or whatever else. So I'm concerned that this is a bit premature because we don't have that vision just yet. I think we need to have more conversations and see if we can agree with our neighbors to the south that those visions match up somewhat, because I don't want to create an instance where we have 2 counties fighting against each other because we've come to an agreement and we have some money. Who's going to win in the end, right? Because this one wants traditional industrial development that is 4 walls, mega infrastructure, and we say we want some kind of agricultural, low intensity but high technological advancement type of industry. I would like to see some congruence before we do that, and I've not had those conversations yet as an elected official in this town. But I think we need to somehow do that as a whole. But I'm more concerned that this comes on the heels of something that the Planning Commission did that was nullified, and as current, the representation, at least as far as I've seen it in the comprehensive plan, is that the citizens of our community do not want an industrial center in the area that this could potentially be. And I want to make sure, and I will fight to the nth degree, that we're going to represent what our citizens want first and foremost. And I'm always reminded, as I travel with my work throughout the state of Kentucky, that far too often it seems that elected officials get into office and then they think their job is to fight for the interest of the business and industry lobbyists and the developers. And I often think it's actually the opposite, that you're there to fight for the interest of your citizens and to protect their interest from these larger, more organized, more funded conglomerates that can force issues. And we've seen it in this community just very recently, that I don't want to ever see that kind of division again. So I want to make sure whatever process we go through, we have some general agreement about our path forward first.
Well, and I would like to address specifically, if I may, Squire Wisman, your question about the timing. So the grant application was filed last year, and the Phase 2 is due on Friday. And so the vote on this resolution is yes or no to advance the application into its second year. It's a 2-year exploration time frame, and there's this touch point, right? And so we weren't ready to bring this resolution. We've been meeting jointly with Anderson County. When I say me, elected officials, staff, engineers, lawyers, planners, all year, and the timing of this is simply due to the grant timing. So we were going to be here no matter what happened with the comprehensive plan. That the comprehensive plan is on its own timeline, and this grant is on its own timeline, and the application is due Friday. And so that's why I'm here today.
Thank you. Just the things I hear from the community, I try to bring them out.
I understand that, and I just want you to know, it's not a coincidence that I'm here. It's because I'm required to come at this time and ask you if you want to continue. And that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Squire Tanner.
Well, I have a little bit different idea about it. My idea is Kelly's, Squire Dacus and I is pretty close to the same. I personally think that we need to look at every opportunity we can. There's nothing in this document that says we can't bail out, and you have to rezone it, number one. I don't know what the plan, and it's, as you just pointed out, there's 2 different things going on here. And the comprehensive plan, which is under scrutiny right now, but it has nothing to do with this. But I do have first, I got a comment, but maybe I should say that. But I do have a question. I think and I'm going to be for this. There's no question about it. But anyway, it does say, talks about 1,500 good paying jobs. So who decides what good paying is? And what if somebody comes in and got 1,400 jobs? Does this prevent them from coming in, or does this allow somebody to make that change?
Well, let me answer the first part of your question first.
Okay.
Good paying jobs is a phrase that's defined by the best practices of economic development. There is an average wage that is used. The cabinet publishes those statistics for different counties, and that's the way the language is intended. I'm not going to say what that is for this county because I want to have the statistic in front of me before I say it, because undoubtedly I will say the wrong amount.
So then,
but those statistics are kept, okay? What happens if it's 1,499 jobs? You know, that is the conversation for these four partners to have. And what this resolution does is it authorizes the judge to be the representative in those negotiations. There's going to be four people: the mayor, the judge, the mayor, and the judge. And those are the four people that are going to make that decision and bring it back to you for a vote about what 1499 means versus 1500 or 1501. You know, so these contingencies and guardrails are put into the document to give us all a roadmap for what we're looking for. We are saying in this document that attracting 100 jobs is not worth the expense of what will be required, right? So it's putting a growth parameter on that. It's putting a financial parameter around where, based on the Compass forward-thinking model, might make financial sense. And as we look for ways to augment our occupational taxes, always, to follow up on what Squire Wisman said, you know, jobs create occupational taxes. We can get those jobs in a variety of different ways at different scale, but the reality of the matter is we have certain measures that the legislature has enacted which are going to be stepping down some of the taxes that we're receiving currently. And we are now looking for how are we going to grow other revenues so that we can provide the city services, because our job, of course, is to collect taxes and provide services. And so we have to be looking for where are the places that we can do that. And usually it's a variety of different places. It would be a very bad decision to put all of our eggs in one basket. And you can look at Rochester and Kodak. You know, things do change. So you wouldn't want to put all your eggs in one basket. I wouldn't want to.
no, I agree. And also, I look at things, compare them to fishing. If you go fishing, you might not catch anything. But if you don't go fishing, you ain't gonna catch nothing. So I believe that this is a good way to see what's out there and see if we want to pursue that, and we may not. And in compliance with what Squire Whitman says, it ain't everything we'd want out there. Or maybe the deal won't work. But I know this would allow us to go forward with a grant for another year to see. And that's where I'm at.
Squire Harrod.
I've talked to several people in my district and people that I think it'd be a vast unjust to not at least check and see. I'm a father of 5. I want my kids to be in Frankfort. I want them to have a place to go to work. I want them to be proud of where they live. So, you know, if this is a resolution just to see where we're at, I think it would be a vast adjustment if we didn't at least pursue to see, you know, what we can attract.
All right, any more questions for Penny while we're on the subject?
Yeah, Judge.
Penny? Oh, I'm sorry, Squire Wisman, sorry.
A couple of specifics, Penny, if you could
Okay,
sort of speak
sure.
to. As Squire Tanner said, that this talks about a mega site and 1,500 good-paying jobs. You know, in my mind, a mega site might mean 250 acres in this community because we don't have traditional flat land. But another community where, say, the new battery plant was just built, is something like 2,000 acres that was put together. That does not work in this community.
We don't have it.
Right. That it just is an impossible
Right.
possibility. It's an impossibility to compare us even, which everyone in this community likes to do, to say Shelby County. The amount of industrial land in Shelby County along the interstate is almost equal to the land holdings of Franklin County in some ways. So, we're comparing apples and oranges in some ways. So can you define for us a little bit more what 1,500 good paying jobs on a mega site looks like in this terms? And I'll also say before we get that, it's not either or, right? As I'm saying that I want personally to focus on rural development, small business. I will bring up some other examples because this is kind of my world a little bit. Something like Pigeon Forge, that's made an incredible tourism industry with no focus on industrial sites at all because their topography doesn't allow it, is a good example for our community to relate to.
Being spatially adjacent to a national park is a great driver for that.
Yes. Franklin, Tennessee, that's a direct comparable to Frankfort, Kentucky, I use all the time, has a good mix of kinds of things, but they really lean into their heritage, their tourism, that whole industry to drive their community. First and foremost, of course, natural disasters make us rethink some of those things all the time.
Right.
But can you just define for us exactly what, within the parameters of this specific site, in relation to, let's say, anywhere else in Franklin County, what that would mean for us?
Okay, well, I can't speak to a specific site because that's not what this resolution is about. But what I can say to you is that a high number of jobs per acre is what is going to be necessary for Franklin County. So when you look at, let's say, robotics, for instance, and advanced manufacturing with a heavy emphasis on robots doing the work, there's a density of the number of people that are coming in a multi-shift environment in a fairly compact footprint where they're overseeing computers which are programming robots. That really is going to make a lot more sense for Franklin County based on the landmass that we have than something that is a 1,000-acre widget factory, right? Because we just don't have that. And so, but there are places that have 1,500 jobs on a site that don't require thousands of acres of land. And so when Franklin County puts its line in the water with Anderson County, it's going to have to sell based on what it does have. It has an incredible quality of life. It has availability of a 7-county workforce. It has more housing starts than it's had in the last 30 years. And it has really great access to rail, to interstates. And so those are the kinds of, it's got ready access to energy, to well-capacity electrical energy, which is driving economic development in this country. It's all about electricity. It's got access to gas. It's got sewer from the standpoint that Anderson County, that the city of Lawrenceburg is able to service that area due to an expansion that they're doing right now. And it has access to water because the Frankfort Plant Board has the capacity to bring that and already supplies water for Anderson County. So those are the kinds of things that I think we're looking at, and we really have to hit that high-density jobs per acre hard, or it's not going to work, because we don't have the land mass for anything else. So does that help answer the question? I can't tell you how many acres it is, but if you look at how many acres a certain industry takes at the whole life cycle of its product, it's pretty wildly disparate. Let's say if they're storing the product versus just making the product. And so I think we're in that maker world where it's got to be dense or it doesn't work because there's not much land that's available. And there's a few acres in the existing industrial park, and I know we talk about repurposing and things. We have to figure out how we're going to pay for repurposing because that generally means people have to move. But I will say that in our current industrial park, as far as industrially zoned land, there are not any parcels. There's a 5-acre parcel which has some bad ley lines due to sewer and retention ponds, but there's really not any land that is already zoned industrial. And that's just a fact. And so that's the reality of the situation. We don't have any land that's already zoned for this. That's why it's very clearly stated that rezoning is going to be a requisite.
That, you're getting at my point, but just the other point that I'll make on top of that then is that we've sort of pigeonholed ourselves into a certain area. We haven't really defined as a community what industrial development looks like to us, because something like an app harvest, agricultural development, or even a bourbon distillery are fairly labor light, right? But that may be what our community wants. We haven't defined that yet. But we are somewhat defining that we want heavy return on investment, heavy jobs, and in this instance, if we had a 400-acre site or something, I'm just pulling numbers out of the air, that may be a 4-person per acre density. You know, I kind of want to go further, and I'm throwing things at you because we're getting ready to go into this planning process of what we want. You know, personally, there have been developments in this community that are 20, 30 years old that have still never paid off the investment that the city and the county made for the improvements to get those, right? In my mind, anything going forward, if it's maybe an agricultural kind of thing that's experimental and new, maybe we hire, prioritize, and we invest more in that kind of thing because that's what our community wants.
Sure.
Versus a scenario where we have a site that more preferably we want whatever develops to pay off the contribution of the elected bodies within, say, 20 years.
Within 20
If that's the life cycle, we want to return on our investment within a certain period of time, and if it doesn't meet that, then you know, we never do that analysis of these projects, and there are 2 on the west side that will never pay, or sorry, the east side, that will never pay themselves off, the one on the east as well, that are shopping centers in my mind, that will never pay themselves off for the investment of the infrastructure that had to go into those projects, and land moving and other things, than the cost and the return to the community, or at least maybe not within 40 years. So we need to define some of those types of things in all of this.
And I think, and my point is, we're kind of full circle now, because I think the exploration, we have to do that to get the answers to some of those questions, and that's what makes sense to me.
You got JW? Squire Blackburn.
Has Compass already run the numbers on what it's going to take for 20 years?
There is
For 25, for 30?
there's a preliminary model that I believe needs to be fine-tuned.
Right.
I think there's
An
more work to
optimistic
do.
model.
Pardon me?
It was an optimistic model. But there's models been run
Oh,
that we can look at.
that for sure.
Penny, thank you very much.
Thank you
We
so much.
appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So next is, this next item, I'm gonna go ahead and read this because we're gonna table this item tonight. So we were notified late this afternoon that a portion of the packet for the Cardwell Lane was omitted by mistake, a complete mistake. The summary from the public hearing was not included. Due to this oversight, and for the sake of transparency, we feel that it would be best to table this item until meeting on November 6th. That would in no way affect the timeline for the second reading of November 26th. So, again, we apologize. It was something that just happened internally, but we wanted to make sure we were doing everything by the book, and so that's what I would like to do tonight.
So will you need a motion to that effect when it comes to the voting?
Yes. Judge, since it is on our agenda already, could we have the conversation if we want to have a public hearing, or if we want to go off the record? I mean, we don't have a full record yet.
I'd rather wait before we have all the information, because I think that is an important part of it. I wouldn't want to ask anybody to vote one way or another without having all the information. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Okay?
When can we expect to get the rest of the report then?
Do we have it?
I'd like to have more than like a.
No,
2 days
we
to-
have it. It was just
I have it.
at 3:20, it was brought to our attention that it by accident got left out of the packet. And so we're just wanting to do everything by the book. Kim can give it to you all before you leave tonight. Is that okay?
Yes, that'd be fine.
Okay, is that okay, Squire?
That gives us a week to
Yeah.
make phone calls, so that's perfect.
Yep, okay. So yes, Squire Sebastian, I will need a motion once we get to that agenda item, please. Alrighty, next, Amy Quatman, our treasurer. Good evening, Amy.
Good evening.
How are you doing?
I'm great.
Good.
So in your packet, I have enclosed revenues and expenses as of October 24th, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has anything.
Squire Blackburn.
Madam Treasurer, do you know to date what our revenue is on our investments that we've made up to this point this year?
Sure. Just to give you a little update, we have 16.4 million invested in CDs, and that ranges from 30 days up to our longest is an 18-month. So booked interest for 3 months totals $309,000.
309,000. So we've made $309,000 in interest off of investments
In 3
this year.
months, yes,
Last
for 3 months.
You're doing a great job. Thank you.
And again, I want to applaud Amy and the Fiscal Court for doing that. I mean, that's something previous courts have never taken the opportunity to invest their rainy day funds, and look how much money is generated for our community. I can't say enough great things about it.
Judge, could I ask, I brought something up to Amy already. I gave Amy a couple of names of additional banks I'd like to look at, and one is currently outside the Franklin County market, but has intentions to come into the Franklin County market very soon, and I know them to be good at this type of work from other experience, and I wondered if the court had any interest in going outside of the Franklin County market to look at those rates. You mentioned it yesterday, I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
So
You know-
if there's a better rate of return by an institution that's, just over in another county, does that warrant us a reasonable expansion to look at those?
Yeah, typically, we've stayed within Franklin County because we do get, there is a bank franchise fee that we do get on investments.
Yeah.
But if you all want to go outside of Franklin County, I'll certainly reach out to this bank.
Squire Blackburn.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. But like, when we do a lot of contracts and we do things like that, we always pick best.
Right.
And that doesn't
Local
mean
preference.
cheapest or lowest. It's the one that helps our community the most and makes the most sense. So I think it's a great idea. But I think we keep it in that format of where we understand what we're looking at when we make those decisions.
Well, a lot of it for me is I want Amy to be comfortable too. I mean, I think she showed us that she's done a great job managing our books and our finances, but she's built a lot of relationships. So I think to me that's part of the puzzle too, because she's the one dealing with things every day. So, and I think that maybe that's something we talk about in committee, but I do think it's a good idea. But I wouldn't want to go too far because I do like supporting our locals because they're the ones that are supporting us. So,
Well, the only argument that I would make is that sometimes, small markets know each other, and competition from outside can benefit us. And in this instance, I would argue that could be the case. But I did give another name of a local institution that I think is going to be favorable too. So.
okay.
Never hurts to shop.
Right.
Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. And I will submit that our community has over 20-plus banks in it. And it has been very welcoming to these financial institutions. And it's nice to see our dollars turning over in our community. So I would submit that for the record, as much as we've discussed that in regard to the planning board. Our money stays here and turns over in our community.
Okay. Any questions for Amy?
Do we have any money invested in People's Bank?
No.
Thank you.
Just one agenda item tonight?
That's it.
Wow. Okay, thank you. Payment of claims. Does anybody have any questions for Kim on payment of claims? We good?
Judge, just for informational purposes, if someone, I'd like to know more about there's a $791 fee for 2025 forest acres, 39,530.
Can you tell us where you are, please? What page?
It's just a general question, maybe to inform all of us about, but it's general fund court bills, page 3, the second to last item for $791, 0191000513, forest resource protection. I'm just unaware of what
Ken, do you know what
might
that
be. I have some speculation about what those accounts might be.
Amy might know more about that one. It is a KRS, and it's fire prevention, or not fire prevention, but for forest. It's based on the amount of acres that Franklin County has in forest
Yes.
for fire.
Pertain to a fund for, okay.
Yeah.
Tax,
Okay.
basically, across the state.
I thought maybe it was to do with some of the natural land protections or something that we pay through Conservation District, but, okay. Thank you.
2 cents an acre.
Any other questions for Kim on payment of claims? Alrighty, seeing none, we're gonna move on to the next agenda item. Authorization to go into closed session per KRS 61.8101B C F, deliberations on the future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency, but only when publicly would likely be affected by the value of a specific piece of property to be acquired for public use or sold by a public agency. Discussion or proposed pending litigation against or on behalf of the public agency, discussions or hearings which might lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an individual employee.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? We're in closed session. Thank you.
Can we
open session?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Alrighty, all opposed say nay. We're in open session. Thank you. Any questions on next agenda item about hiring a light equipment operator? Seeing none, gonna move on. Any questions about the board appointment for the Franklin County Ethics Commission? Nope, seeing none. Authorization to approve board appointment for the Franklin County Humane Society.
Got a question about that.
Okay.
That's Richard, he's an employee of the county, that is not a conflict.
Is it? To be on the board?
I'm for it, but I just
I wondered that too.
I'll have to look, I don't think so, but,
I don't think it is.
I mean, I can look if you would like.
he said, no, I'm fine, I'm for it, but I just wanted.
Are you all okay if we go ahead and vote on it, and then Max will let me know tomorrow? If there's a conflict, we'll pull it.
We meet again next week,
They're urging to get somebody on there, because it's been vacant. And they're probably not gonna meet in between now and then, so.
Just a correction, on the order, it says Andrew Breek, it was Andrea.
Okay.
That was-
I'll fix
yeah.
that.
Yep, thank you.
A&D-I.
Yeah.
Her real name's Andrea.
Alrighty, other business, we have any other business? Alrighty, seeing none, we're gonna roll into voting session. Y'all ready? Let's do this. Alrighty, clerk, please call roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Here.
Squire Blackburn.
Present.
Squire Dykus.
Here.
Squire Harrod.
Here.
Squire Tanner.
Here.
Squire Wisman.
Present.
Maybe I should have.
Judge Miller.
Present. Thank you, clerk. Authorization for approval on minutes from the regular meeting, October 16, 2024.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to receive the report of the audit of the Franklin County Clerk for the year ended December 31, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to receive the county clerk's quarterly report ending September 30th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization for approval of county clerk's claims for preparing tax bills.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization for approval of sheriff's official receipt for property tax bills for 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, you get it?
Yes.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to approve an agreement with the Boys and Girls Club of Frankfurt and Franklin County Fiscal Court.
Judge, question on that one to
Yep.
amend as I saw fit?
Yep.
We don't know what that amendment is. Can we give you authorization to enter into agreement with the caveat of placing the market rate as a,
In the contract?
in the contract as a,
Just as
an in-kind donation from the court?
Okay. Clerk, did you get all that?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
You
All
needed a
those-
second.
Second.
Aye.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. And I just want to say, I appreciate the court doing that. I think it's an amazing opportunity for the Boys and Girls Club to be created here in Franklin County, and that's great work. Authorization to approve the quitclaim deed correction regarding 111 Professional Court, Frankfort, Kentucky.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to approve a resolution of the Fiscal Court of Franklin, Kentucky regarding multi-county industrial development authority pursuant to KRS 154.050 ET SEQ with the Fiscal Court of Anderson County, Kentucky, the City of Frankfort, Kentucky, the City of Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, and authorizing the county judge executive to represent Franklin County in all matters relating to the development of a joint industrial development park in conjunction with its partners referenced here within.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Judge, I think I'm going to vote present just because of the questions I expressed
Okay, clerk, did you
in
get
our
that?
discussion.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Boom, boom, boom. All right, so I need somebody to make a motion on this next agenda item.
Judge, I'll move to table the first reading of the 827 Cardwell Lane zone change.
Okay, agenda item
Second.
number 10,
Well, that's fine.
You want to table to a certain date?
November 16th.
December 6th,
It doesn't matter, but I'll table till the next meeting of the fiscal court.
which is December 6th.
No, it's November.
November.
So it's
I'm
November.
sorry. It's been a long day, I'm sorry. I was ready for Christmas. Okay. Did we get a second?
Yes.
Yeah, I second it.
All right. All those in favor of tabling item number 10, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to receive treasurer's report.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Payment of claims. Is there a motion to deny payment of any claim? No motion was made. Let the record reflect claims are to be paid. Authorization to approve the appointment of Charles Cody Creekmore as light equipment operator / driver.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to approve a board appointment of James Rogers to the Franklin County Ethics Commission with a term ending June 30th, 2027.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to approve a board appointment of Richard Sanford to Board of Directors of the Franklin County Humane Society with a term ending March 10, 2027.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to adjourn.
Amen. So moved.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you.